Today at home with Miss Joan, I'm going to make a video for beginning canners. So if you're an experienced canner, this video is probably not for you to watch, unless you want to help me out by watching it and chiming in and commenting on maybe some things that I leave out, because I'm going to try to go slow. I'm going to try to talk to my new people that's new to canning. And if you've ever been afraid of blowing up your canner and just scared to death because of some of the horror stories you heard from your grandparents and great-grandparents or whatever, then we're going to try to allay your fears, because I used to be afraid to get started at this, but now I'm so glad that I did, because I've got some good, safe food on my shelf that lasts a long time to feed my family. And so, like I said, this is directing to if you are new at canning and you're a little bit nervous or a lot nervous about it, then follow along with me today. Comment down below anything I left out. I'll get back to you and answer it the best I can. So we're going to get started here by just looking at some jars. Because you'll say, well, I want a can so bad, Miss Joan, but I just don't have all that stuff. Well, you can start out small, okay, and by collecting you some jars. And I found a lot of mine at yard sales, estate sales especially, because sometimes the family members think, well, I don't want to fool with all that canning stuff that mama or grandma had, and they just put it out for nearly nothing, okay? That's a great place to find a lot of your supplies, even canners. Basically what I use is two different types. I use what we call the pint jar and the quart jar. Now there's all different kind of jars. You see this little jar, I call it a jelly jar, but it's what you call an 8-ounce jar. You can put anything you wanted to in it, but mostly I use these for jelly. There's what they call the wide mouth. I'll just open it up. And the small mouth. In both of these sizes, the pints and the quarts. You see? So you gotta know that if you got the jar, you gotta have the right size lid and ring. Sometimes in the craft stores they'll make a little thinner jar that, you know, a lot of craft people use, but you'll want to make sure you've got a good thick jar. Always look on the bottom of it. Usually they'll have some kind of or the word ball or mason or kerr. Those are all good canning jars. On your jars, you say, well, whoa, that's pretty high. Right now you may have to buy a dozen that comes with the lids and the rings. That may cost you $14. You pay tax and everything. That's kind of high, Miss Joan, for me to just get 12 jars out of it. You buy them once and then you use them over and over and on and on and on. As long as they don't get chipped or cracked in any way, they're good forever, okay? I'm telling you, I've got some I've been using for many, many years. So you're really investing in your food product. You're investing in canning. Oh, if I was doing pickles, I like to pick this wide mouth because it's easier to reach in there and get the pickles out. See what I mean? Now, if I'm doing beans, which I'm going to show you how to do that today, that's what we're going to use to train by. You can use wide or small mouth. They're going to dump out. It don't matter. You may have to hit them a little harder on the bottom. They'll come out. So it really don't matter which size. It's up to you as to what you're canning and how hard it is to get out, okay? The main thing that you want to get new every time is the seals or the lids. Hear it? These rings you can use over and over, okay? Just wash them and dry them real good and put them up, and you just use them over and over. So you get to use your jars over and over, you get to use your rings, or some people call these bands, over and over. And it's your seals or your lids that it's always good to just order new ones. And you can't buy them, see? After you collected up all your jars, using them over and over, and your bands and your rings over and over, you just buy these. I get a dozen at a time and stay stocked up on them. Then I'm ready for whenever I want to can something. It's always best to use new tops or new lids, new seals. The reason I call them 2 or 3 different things is Mom will call them something, Grandma will call them something, and I'm trying to read off the box what the official name is. I was going to tell you, I'm real careful when I go to open them. Like, when I take this off, I don't just use the sharp end of this can opener. I use this rounded soft end, and I try to gently take it off so that I don't indent the top. Because sometimes on jams and jellies, because they only process just about 10 minutes or so, I will reuse a few of these if they got a real thick rubber So, but being new, I would advise you strongly, use new lids. No matter what you're practicing on or what you're starting to can on, use new ones, okay? This is just the basics of the jars. Some of the real old ones, see, it has numbers on the bottom. 69, 67. Just look at them, see different. That's just, you can actually Google and you can see where this jar came from, where it was made at. It's interesting when you track all the jars. But what I'm trying to say is you're going to have a canning jar. They have started making some little thinner jars for crafts. We don't want those, okay, at all in our canning. And I'm going to ask my daughter Jordan, please chime in and help, because she can. I need to be filming. She could be canning and showing y'all. She knows all about it too. So help me, Jordan, along the way, because I sure want this to be a good tutorial on how to can and not be afraid. See that scratch there and that dent place where, see how, run your hand over it, oh, you could get cut on that right there. This could never be used in any way. See, that's a used one. You tell right off the top. Even though the rubber looks good, it is clearly not making a true circle. I'm going to explain all the parts of the canner and what all of them are used for, but I thought I'd do it by really canning something. To me, one of the easiest things to can is dry beans. And I already have a how to can dry beans video. That's what you need to look at for how to can dry beans, if you want to do that. This is just, I'm doing these as part of my tutorial. Some people, when they do a teaching video, they'll just can water. I could have done that, but if I'm gonna run my canner and all that power and electricity, I'm gonna have something in there. Which people do can water and they use it for purified water. But anyway, I start out with clean jars. We talked about the different sizes. The way I clean these real good, they're already clean, but I stuck them in the dishwasher. And what I do is, as I need a couple, I go get them out of the dishwasher and they stay, you know, good and clean or whatever. I am just going to do some beans to show y'all the slow, how to do it, how not to be afraid to can. Okay, this is called a funnel. I got a silver looking one and then I got this plastic one. And I just stick it in here. It just keeps your beans from flying everywhere. And you might need a ladle when you start your how to can, to ladle out soupy like liquid things. But I don't need this today. I'm just got a half measure cup. I'm dipping it down into my clean looked washed beans. A half a can. A half a cup. The reason it's a half a cup because I'm going to can pints. If I was going to can a quart, then I put a whole cup, okay? I put my half a cup of bean, and then I'm going to use salt. Now, in all your canning processes, always use salt. They make just a special canning salt or plain salt that does not have iodine, okay? Iodine messes with the canning process. And some people don't even use salt in their canning, and you don't have to. So don't let anybody tell you, well, you got to put salt in it for it to preserve. No, you don't. It's the pressure. Pressure is going to preserve that can. But I like to put a half a teaspoon of salt in mine. If I was doing a quart, I'd put a whole. But again, you look up my bean video, okay?
Why do you like to do that if it's not necessary?
Because it gets down in the beans good and helps a little bit with the flavor when you open it up. It's been sitting there marinating in just a little bit of salt water. Does that make sense? But you don't have to. Some people can't even have salt in their diet. Okay, and then I'm just pouring some room temperature water. I'm going up to the 1-inch headspace, which I'm going to stop and explain that. You'll hear that a lot when you watch other canning videos. Oh, you need a 1-inch headspace. I'm going to show it to you. See these rings? There's a ring. Here's a ring. See them going around your jar, these rings. That bottom ring, if you're coming up from the bottom, that first ring, that is what they call a 1-inch headspace. Now, if you had a measuring stick, you could measure it. See, this twirls around. It kind of curls around, makes 3. This little tiny one at the top. See how it stops right there? That's 1/4 inch. Here's a 1/2 inch. See where it starts right there? Here's the big that you'll use the most of the time is the 1 inch. Of course, like I said, you can measure it with one of these or an old-time ruler, but it really answers your question right there on the jar. You know, you can buy these fancy things right here where they come in a little kit. You get this and this And this, see, all mine's green. I got all this in a little kit and it wasn't all that expensive. I bought this at Walmart several years ago. This is also used as debubbling. Now all that means is try to get the air out of whatever you're canning. Always do it, no matter what you're canning. I'm sorry if you hear my refrigerator running, it's old. And when I cut it off, it don't want to cut back on sometimes when we're videoing. Oh, so I'm gonna talk real loud. I am going around in here with this, the other end of what we call my debubbler. And I'm just going around and I'm getting the air. You may see some air bubbles floating to the top. That's gonna help in the canning process to always get that extra air. And some people are real meticulous. They'll make us X right here in it. Because a lot of times if there's an air bubble stuck in here, he's stuck right in the middle of your product, okay? So this is called debubbling. You don't have to have one of these fancy things right here. Oh, if I can reach and find one. I like these wooden skewers right here. They work just as good. Right out of my drawer over here, it cost me a dime, okay? That works just as good. Some people don't like for you to put the stainless down in here, but all right, Miss Joan actually just used whatever she's got to get the air bubbles out. Now what it is, I'm only going to do 2 of these because I'm not going to bore you with how to do the bean process. You can look that up on the other video. We're talking about simple how to can. You got clean jars. Now if you noticed, I can touch these. They're cool. There's something called the hot pack and the cold pack method, okay? Today, these are what we call a cold pack, room temperature pack. When you get your recipe, whatever you want to can, and you figure out, is it supposed to be hot when it goes in the jars, or is it supposed to be cold when it goes into the jars? It makes a big difference because then you want your jars to be cold, your product is cold, your food, and you're going to come over here to your canner, and you're going to make sure that your water going into your canner is cold. That way you crack your jars. See, if I had a hot jar and I threw it in here in a cold pan of water in this canner, crack, you might hear. If I'm a cold packing or I'm putting cold product in here like I'm doing, then I'm going to put cold tap water into my canner, let it warm up slowly. As the jars warm up, the canner warms up. You see, all the same, less likely of opening it up later on and finding cracked jars. Everything that you're going to can, everything, you're going to always clean. You notice I put salt in here, even though I told you I didn't have to. Well, I got to clean that off because these little granules and this salt, they could still be sitting here on the rim of this. So I'm going to make sure they're clean. Now, some people just clean it with a wet cloth. I like to use vinegar to clean mine. Most of the time, if you're canning white vinegar, you turn around, look at the back, it's on, say, 5% acidity. That's a good level percentage for canning, okay? So that's usually, when I go to buy it, I always turn around and look at the back, make sure that's what I'm getting. I just put it off in this little jar because it's easier for me to grab. We use it so much. So anyway, we poured off a little bit in here, and we're cleaning the tops of my jars. Okay? I've got a paper towel, good clean cloth. Okay, now that's good and clean. No salt on top of that, okay? You know that little duo pack I told you I bought earlier? This is called a magnetic, whoever invented this is pretty smart. A magnetic lid lifter. Now this process right here is what my mama did, okay? You'll hear me say that's how mama did it. Nowadays they've learned you really don't have to heat. Mama would heat her rings or her bands. Even though they were clean, she would heat them, and then she would heat her lids, okay? You want to make sure when you're pulling them out of here, there's not 2 stuck together, because then you're not going to get a seal on your product, okay? They're easy when they're in this water. But what it is, this rubber right here, Mother helped to the idea that go ahead and get this hot in a hot pan of water, and it already starts it to get more pliable, I guess is the word, soft, or it really will stick to the rim of that jar. Now, nowadays, all the ones that talk to us, the USDA and all of the canning authorities, they say you don't have to do this. Some of them just take it right out of the new pack and put it right on their lid. I don't now. I'm just telling you how I do it. I put them in this hot water and I let it get real hot and steamy. And then I've got a hot one that not real hot, because remember we got what we call a cold pack product. Like I said, you can just put these on there either way, whether you're hot packing or cold packing. You don't have to heat the seals, the lids. I'm just doing it how my mama did it, okay? Main thing, clean your rims, put your lid on, a new lid, and then your ring. Well, we call these a band. She said, oh look, Joan, it looks like a wedding band or a wedding ring. But anyway, import it here on everything you can. When you put it on there, I don't know what it is about us. We think the tighter the better. That is not true in pressure canning, okay? Finger tight. Put it on here. You see me? I'm just going to take a little bit of a tightness. Now, I can really hammer down on it, but I'm not going to. See, this is going to be pressure canned. The whole point of that pressure canner is to get the air out of this jar. I know we debubbled and tried to get the air to come to the top, but it's going to start at the bottom and it's going to work all the way to the top, getting that air out. You don't see it, but this is going to lift just a tad, okay? And you got it tied down so tight, then the pressure can't get the extra air out. You see what I'm saying? So just barely. It's called finger tight. When you watch other videos, you'll hear them say finger tight. I've got it on there. See how loose it is? Then I'm going to do just a finger tight turn. That's it. Not like that. Okay, now I've got these two ready. This is the same process no matter what good recipe, soup, whatever that you choose. You're going to do the same thing. Clean jars, right? Put your good recipe in there. Read your recipe. Does it come up to the inch? Most of the time my jellies is like 1/4 of an inch. You can come up closer to the top. Jams and jellies. 1/2 an inch would be like if you're water bath canning something. A lot of times you can do 1/2 inch. But most of the time I'm pressure canning and I'm doing a inch headspace, okay? Alrighty, like I said, you chime in if you got any questions. I'm doing my best to try to think of everything to tell you. This is gonna be pressure canning, what we're doing. I actually own two, and you see the difference in them. I don't know what kind you got at your house, but I thought I'd talk about both of them. This is my 23 quart, and they make different sizes. This is probably one of the bigger ones. 23 quart Presto canner. This one is just a tad smaller. See, you can tell when they sit side by side. This is a Mira, M-I-R-R-O, Mira canner. This actually belonged to my husband's mother. It's a good canner. She used it back into the 70s. I mean, it's heavy duty. Nothing wrong with this canner. You notice the difference? Your canner may be like mine. It has what's called a dial gauge. As the pressure rises in here, this is going to go up. Alright, you see I don't have it on this one. This canner to me is just as good as this canner. It has all the same parts in it, it just doesn't have the dial gauge. A lot of people prefer the dial gauge, and some people prefer these. It's just whatever you got, you could use it. Don't think you can't. It depends on where you live as the amount of weight that you're going to put on your pressure canner. This little old thing here, see it says 5, 10, 15. We call this my weighted gauge. I know that here in Alabama where I live, and what you got to do is Google what, let's say you say I live in Kalamazoo, whatever, how much am I above sea level, okay? And they'll tell you immediately. I Googled it and I'm 663 feet above sea level, okay? And then you look for a chart on Canon. There's lots of charts out there that tells, well, if you're below 1,000 feet above sea level, then you're going to use 10 pounds of pressure. So see me, I know that, but where I live, I always can with my 10-pound weighted, not the 15, not the 5, okay, 10 pounds. If you're above that, then you may be going up to using the 15-pound weight. That's very important where you live as to the heaviness of the weight that you put on your canner. I'm going to stop right here though and say to the new canners, first thing you start your book, okay? Just a canning book. Don't get them all mixed in with all your other recipes, okay? Just a canning book. And before you know it, you'll be dividing it off in different sections. And what I did this morning, I went to my dry bean section, and I pulled out, you know, you may think, I remember, but there might be some little things that you don't remember. So I really do rely on my canning book, which is my notes, not somebody else's, okay? I'm gonna look at the bottom of it. It looks all stained up because depending on what kind of water you got, it's gonna turn in all kind of colors. Well, when you buy one of these canners, it only comes with one. Now this thing will hold a double stack, which means you gotta have two. It comes with one of these. Mine's got stained up. I don't remember which one it come with, but it come with one of these. What it is, you don't want your jars sitting, even though we're gonna put some water in this, you don't want your jars boiling for a long, long time in here up against that bottom. It could crack them or nick them a little bit. So every time you buy one of these, it comes with one. Why they don't go ahead and send us two, I'll never know. But you have to go and order you another one. But I'm putting a rack down in mine, always. If you don't own a rack, you can take a whole bunch of the rings, hook them together, and make a big circle with them by taking bread ties or little wires. Make your own disc or whatever to go in the bottom to pad it. Some people put a dish towel down in there. So I put my disc down in there. The next thing is to read your book that comes with your canner. This one come with the book. That one many years ago come with the book. And if you've lost the book, got an old one, you can go online, download a book just for your canner. Because what I've learned by talking with other girls, if you notice, I've got the old time stove with just the regular stove eyes. A lot of them now has the glass top and all that. You need to read your stove book too. Not just your canner book, your stove book. Because I had a friend, I forgot what state she lives in. And she called me, oh my goodness, it ain't doing, I'm not getting pressure, it's falling, it's going up and down. And she had one of them new, I call it newfangled, new stoves where you turn this eye on. And even though you put it on nearly high, it's gonna automatically adjust the heat itself and bring it down and bring it up and bring it down and bring it up. And it was running her cannon because we get that pressure up, we got to leave it at that same poundage that we talked about, and we'll talk about more. So it's so important to learn can on my stove. She got her book out and read it and found out I can on my stove, but I can only use one of the 4 eyes, and she was using the wrong eye. So that's just a little tip, and it'll save you from losing your beans or whatever you're canning. Okay, so far I put 3 quarts of water in my canner. Now I've already measured this. I use this bowl all the time. I know that if I get it right up to about right here, it's 3 quarts of water. I've already put 2 quarts of water in here because I wanted you to see what I'm measuring by, just a quart jar. Here goes 2 that I already measured, and here goes the 3rd one. Everything I can, I put 3 quarts of water in the bottom. Now this is pressure canning. If you was water bath canning, then you would cover your jars all the way to the top and then go another inch to 2 inches above. I usually do an inch above water bath canning. This is pressure canning. 3 quarts of water is in here and my little disc for the jars to sit on. Now, I do this. I put vinegar in there. All of us has different kinds of water in our city water, our county water, whatever water we got. So just to be on the safe side, I'm going to I'm going to measure it for y'all today. I'm going to put 2 tablespoons of the white vinegar in there. Now, so all I've got is 3 quarts of water. Read your canner now, because remember, this is 23 quart. I'm putting 3 quarts of water. Read your canner book. They tell you less, whatever. I've got vinegar in there. Now, it's time for me to put my jars in there. Now, I've already got these prepared. Remember, my water is not hot. I have begun to turn my eye on just a little bit. So I'm going to hurry up through this because we've already shown you how to prepare your jars when we done those 2, and I done the same thing on all of these. But because I want a full canner, I know what it'll hold. Is that 10? Yeah, 10. Now, that's where it comes in handy for you to go ahead and order you a second one of these separators or disc or whatever. I'm going to lay it in there. That's going to keep my second rack of jars from hitting the tops of the others and damaging them. You're pretty good, Jordan. She's sliding me jars and filming at the same time. All right. So far, we hadn't done anything scary, have we? Now, I didn't have to put the whole full canner in here. Maximum is the 20 pints on mine. Yours might be less. Oh yeah, always make sure this is sitting right in the middle of your eye. You don't want to start moving and twisting it around. Damage your stove eye. You can get these jars off of balance. Okay, we don't want that. See this little hook right here, and I don't have one back here. That was my elbow hitting the other canner. This right here, it's part of the locking system. That's why I like these Presto canners. It's got that locking system on there. Okay. Here's my Presto. Here's my mirror, the other one. More plain operated. They're both easy. All right. You always got to inspect your lids, whichever. So I'm going to jerk that off for just a minute. We'll talk about the rubber or the gasket. Here it is. Every one of these kind right here has this rubber gasket. You want to take him out, and when we're through canning, wash him good, let him dry. If you ever feel that he's not what you call real soft and rubbery, feeling kind of hard and crunchy, you can buy these replacements, or you can also get a little life out of them by just taking some Wesson oil or vegetable oil, olive oil, going around it a little bit, just greasing it a little bit. You can see on my other canner, here is its gasket. That's very important because that's what's going to help when that steam starts building. It's going to help it seal. So you don't want to use one that's all brittly and old. Okay, I've looked at my gasket. You see, this is my vent pipe right here. Here's my vent pipe right here on this older model. It's the one that the weight goes on, okay? The weight goes on this too. Okay, air has got to get through here, but you got to check it before you start and make sure it's not stopped up. Now, if you want to, get your real straight, long pin and run it through that hole right here. Make sure it's not stopped up in any way. You can look through it. See, I'm looking through it and I can see the light in the room. So I know that it's not stopped up. You don't want that to be clogged up in any way. And then, this right here, it says top on it. That's your cover lock, also called air vent. This is called the dial gauge. And I've already showed you the rubber gasket down under, this also called the sealing ring down under the rubbery thing. And the dial gauge, the vent pipe. Okay, you'll notice I got something else back here. See it? He's called the overpressure plug. That's why these newer canners, they're so safe now. They all have all these other features that you're looking at and checking your poundage and everything, your pressure. But it's got an overpressure plug. Say you was to left the room, wasn't paying no attention, and it got above what you wanted it, you had it set on, and it got very much above that. If I'm doing 10, it got to 15 or whatever, or more, this thing's gonna blow out. Okay, that's an emergency plug. You ain't gotta worry about him, don't get all upset.
Define blowout. That sounds like an explosion happening.
Well, it's to keep your canner from blowing out in those horror stories that your grandmas used to tell. That's why they started installing all these, okay? It's to keep that problem from happening. That's just an emergency. I haven't had an emergency in all my times of canning, but it's good to know that's there if we was to hit a problem somehow. Say this thing got stopped up and it did have too much pressure in there, that thing, see, it's going to blow, okay? That don't mean blow up. That's what I need to clear up. This little black plug's going to come out. Relieve some of that overpressure. That's why it's called the overpressure plug. You will notice my older canner here, he's got one too. You don't hardly see him. There he is. So see, they had started improving them back. This one's in the 70s or whatever. It's time for me to put the lid on because we've inspected all the parts. I was going to show you one more thing. See this lock thing, but also this right here, when this thing builds up to all the pressure and all this thing's going to automatically come up. The steam's going to push him up, and it's going to let you know, hey, your canner is locked down. Okay. So you see that line right there, arrow? You can only put this on one way. There's no arrow on the other side. Make sure your little hook here is on the front. This is going to help it lock. I set this on here. Here it go down. Whoop. Now I got to line up my black to my black. And there's the arrow where it wants it to come. pulling it forward. Okay. That's down. This is on 0. You see there's no pressure built up in here. Now I'm going to turn up my heat. To me, I'm going to almost high, what I call medium high, I guess. I'm going to let the steam build up. We're going to wait now. This is called the vent pipe. So the steam that's building up in here, it's got to vent out. We want this canner to get the air out, fill up with steam and pressurize. It's going to build and build, and it's all going to come out right here, all the extra. But all canners will tell you to let this vent or let it release air for 10 minutes. Now, when I was new at canning, that's the longest 10 minutes. I'll just go ahead and tell you my life. It's like, oh my goodness, it's coming out really good and strong. Why can't I just go ahead and put the weight on it and get the process going? No. It's very important because it is pulling that extra air out of this canner. You know there's air in it. You saw me set them jars in there, move stuff around, and there's air all around it. Very little water, okay? So we gotta wait and let it come out. So that's what we're gonna do right now, and I'm gonna come back with you when this thing starts what we call venting. You've got your product in here, you got your water, you got your vinegar, you got that little round piece in there to protect the jars from the bottom. You got another round disc plate thing in there. It has holes in it so steam can go through. To protect my second layer, you don't have to do 2 layers every time, okay? You can just do one, especially if you're starting out. I just do 1 layer, okay? Run it through the whole process that I'm gonna go with you today, and you'll feel that joy of that finished product and like, I did it. Well, and then you might start doing a double stack later on, okay? But if I advise y'all new ones, I just do one rack of my beans or whatever I was gonna do today. Anyway, we got it locked down. We've checked it all. We know how to check it, and we're waiting on the steam to come out this hole. If I was using a canner like this, it'd be the exact same thing. Same thing with everything, water, vinegar, dividing racks. I'd be waiting on that steam to come out this little thing right here, and I'd let it come out a good, steady, strong steam for 10 minutes on both of these, okay? There's a little bit of steam coming out. But can you see it with my hand or without? That's not the full vented, strong steam that we're looking for, okay? But it's getting there. That's the beginning part of it, okay? So that's not the full steam that we're looking for. And then notice right here my little vent lock button here. He's still down. So we're slowly getting there. We're not there yet. I'd say this thing's probably been running 15, 20 minutes. I wanted to say to y'all that there's 4 things that the pressure cannon does to our food. It gets all the oxygen out. And it destroys the enzymes, and we want that done. And we want to prevent the growth of any microorganisms in our product, or our beans that we're doing today. And then we want a very tight seal on each jar. A firm vacuum pressure sealed jar. Okay, so that's 4 things that we really do want. A lot of people, they want a water bath can everything, but you have to get a temperature up to 240 degrees, and that's what a pressure canner does. It gets 240 degrees inside there, and that's when it kills anything that, you know, we all have heard the horror stories of botulism and different things, and that is what kills any sign of anything like that. Also, though, I do some water bath canning. Let's see, I believe water boils at 212 degrees, and I told you earlier that you got to be sure what you are above sea level, because I didn't know this till recently, but water boils at 202 degrees if you're above 1,000 feet sea level. It boils at 212 if you're below. So it's important to know where you live, where you're canning at, and that's the amount of how your water is going to boil, or your product is going to be water bath canned or pressure canned. So, you know, there's a lot of science, I guess, into canning. We don't think about that because we're just sitting here in our kitchen, but there is a lot to it. On the water bath, a lot of people buy a specific special, spend more money for a canner, but water bath is nothing but boiling your jars. You saw me put them in my pressure canner. I use that same thing. It's just a boiler. And I've got another big lid that I sit on top of it. So if I was going to water bath can something today, say my tomatoes, because it's a high acid food. If there's a lot of acid in your food, then you can water bath can it, okay? But if there isn't, like the beans, that's a low acid food. Meat is low acid food. A lot of vegetables are low acid. High acid is mostly your fruits and your tomatoes. Oh, that's why they call tomato a fruit. I've always thought it was a vegetable myself, but technically it's a fruit. So anyway, but water bath canning, you just need a boiler, a big pot that's very deep. You put your cans in there, food you want to seal, and you put the water higher than the jars are, at least by an inch, and let it come to a really vivid rolling boil, because you want that temperature that I just gave you, that 212, that 202, depending on where you live. Let it get to rolling really hard boil, and that's when you start your clock on water bath canning. And you do the same thing. You let it run ever how long you're supposed to. You just cut the eye off, let it sit there and cool down itself. We always get in a big hurry up. Whoo, gotta hurry up, get the lid off. No, let it cool down on its own, okay? So some of you that's just starting out, you might want to water bath can something. But this is pressure canning that we're talking about today. And we're gonna go on over to the canner because it is starting to do that vigorous steam that I was telling you about. This. Y'all see that vivid steam coming out there now? It's a lot stronger than what I told you a while ago. My dial here is still on 0 because we hadn't locked nothing down. But now is when I'm going to start my clock. I'm starting my clock. I'm going to let it come out really strong here for 10 minutes. And after that, we're going to put the amount of weight on it, depending on where you live, depending on where I live. For me, it's going to be 10 pounds. But we're going to let right now, see, it's running all that extra air out of my canner because it's supposed to. Don't let this scare you. This is the part I never did like. Oh, I'm waiting 10 minutes. Oh. But you're supposed to. So just chill out. Have you a good, nice cold glass of tea. Wait on it. Let's look here. See, that popped up on its own. It's letting me know that it has locked in with that button that I showed you that was in the canner that's sticking out. It's letting me know that my canner now is locked, okay? It's sealed off. So we're still waiting. This is so easy. I haven't done anything yet to scare you, have I? I'm sitting here, yeah, that's some strong steam coming out, that's all. This thing is locked. I'm waiting on the 10 minutes, and I'm telling you what, you can do this, okay? You just need a little bit of confidence, somebody to walk you through it, and it's nice and slow. That's what I want to do today, help you. My canner's over there venting if you hear that loud racket, but I wanted to recommend some books to you too. This one right here is the Ball Complete Book of Home Preservation. Now they come out with one of these every so often. They'll change the front of the cover. But it has a whole lot of recipes in here. It takes you all the way through the canning process. And also the USDA, they have a lot of books or downloads, some free downloads that you can look up, and if you want to learn more about canning. This is another one online, the National Center for Home Food Preservation, the NCHFP. You just look that up and they have a world of information for canners, old and new. Of course, I told you to always don't get your book for your canners. That's real important. And even mine has got recipes in it for some simple canning. And then I've already told you about my just personal canning book where if I can something, I write down how I do it. I think I'll remember and I won't. So it's separate from any other recipe books I've got. But these right here is just some good resources that you can use. And like I said, the USDA, U.S. Department of Agriculture, they put out a lot of canning guidelines. They've done a lot of research on home canning and how to keep us all safe. So you want to read and study up after them. And there's a lot of good canners out there on YouTube that you can look up. I'm just one of many. I just thought I'd take the time today to try to talk to y'all to not be afraid. Just don't be afraid. Go at it and you can do it. If you're extra nervous, then get a buddy to be there with you and y'all walk through it together, okay? And there's a lot of the old canners probably live next to you or around in your community that would thrill them to death to get to talk to you and help you learn how to do canning, because I love teaching others how to do it and to just lay their fears aside and enjoy it. I enjoy it. My daughter does too. Now, on this other canner that that I've been talking to, we don't have anything in it. If you've got one that just has the air vent that's been jumping out air for 10 minutes, now's when you would, for me, I'd go to 10 and I would put it on here. That's when I start my clock. Right here, my bell has gone off. This has been going for 10 minutes. Now, this one comes with one of these. It's a pressure regulator. In other words, I'm supposed to watch this clock, dial gauge for 10 pounds, and this thing is a 15-pound weight. Well, so it ain't going to rock and carry on, because I'm going to watch this and adjust my heat on my stove for 10 pounds. So this thing's not going to show out. But if it was to get to 15 and me not watching it real close, it's going to start moving. Say, whoop, you're too high. This come with this. Why in the world they don't sell these canners with these little break apart ones? I had to order it separate. That's a 5 pound. That's a 10 pound, and when I bought it, there's the 15 pounds. See what I mean? This is what I like to use. Although my canner came with this one and you can use it, this is what I use.
Where'd you get him from?
I ordered him off Amazon. If I can, I'll put the link down below, okay? But now, I'll tell you why I did that. This is a 10 pound weight. Now we're going to watch for my gauge to get to 10 pounds. And if you'll notice, because this is a 10 pound weight, they both gonna, when that hits 10, this is gonna start rocking a little bit, because it's a 10 pound weight. I have locked this canner down on 10 pounds. If I use this one that come with it, which is a very good one, okay, you gotta watch this dial a whole lot closer, okay? Keep adjusting your weight, your stove heat. But right now, see, it's already been started to climb to 1 pound. See it? It's starting to climb. It's starting to climb. See it? When it gets to 10, I'm going to start my clock. I'm not going to start my clock just when I threw that on there, because it's telling me right now. Same here. This thing would be real quiet because it ain't reached 10 pounds yet. This tells me I'm watching it climb 2, 4, 6, up. When it gets to 10, I'm going to say, oh, I got to adjust my stove eye. That's when you'll have to learn how fast your stove eyes heat and cook. I've learned mine. See, I know exactly where to put this when it gets there on the 10 pounds. But this canner to me is just as good as this one, okay? It don't have as many bells and whistles. But I can in it all the time. I put one here and I put one on this back eye. That's a big eye. I can on the big eye now on my stove, not the small eye, the big one. I got 2 big ones on here. Now is when you got to know, how long am I going to pressure can this stuff, okay? I know that dry beans, pints, go 75 minutes. If they were quarts, they go 90 minutes. I've done it so many times, I know that they can the exact amount of time as meat. 75 pints, 90 for quarts. You'll learn all that as you go, okay? You'll just set your clock on it, and you'll watch it. That thing gets to rattling too loud on you. You say, whoo, I got to turn my stove eye down. That's all it's telling you. Hey, let's adjust the eye just a little bit. Not too much now, because you don't want to drop the pressure real fast. Okay? You got to keep it on 10 to 11, right in there, okay? So you can see you got some time that you have to wait. You'd be doing other things in your kitchen. But yeah, I really do like this little thing right here. This little weight that I ordered. Somebody, when I was researching mine to buy one of these, they said, get you one of these. And I did, and I really do like it. Some people say it overrides this, but I kind of think they work hand in hand. Gonna keep that one on 10, thereabout, and then that is my 10 pound weight. It wasn't very expensive either. I don't know if it's going up in price, but we'll look that up for you and stick it down below. Getting close. Y'all see it? We still haven't set our clock now for our processing time. We're watching this valve. Dial gauge, I believe. These has all got professional names. I just call it, it's a dial. And that's what I go by. That's the dial gauge. And this is the weighted gauge. A lot of people call this the jiggler. This thing and this thing over here. This other one. Because it's going to jiggle. It's going to start making a little racket. When I first done it, it made me a little nervous, I'll be honest with you. But I got used to that little racket. It's a sweet sound now. When I started out a while ago, I was trying to bring the heat up in the pot pretty quick. I had it up right here about on the 9, nearly on high, okay? But I hadn't reached pressure yet. That's when I turned it down to. And I watched this, listen to this. If I didn't have the dial, I'd just be listening, like I'm listening over here. You see how he's beginning to jiggle? Here he started moving. Look at this. You know why? Because Miss Joan's on 10 pounds of pressure. See that and starting to move? All right, now's when I turn my stove down. I turned mine down to around medium. And now's when we're going to set our clock on 75 minutes. Hit the start button. 75 minutes on these beans. Okay. Now, if you've got this kind of a canner and you've got this kind of a gauge, you just pay real close attention to that right there. Okay. You know that Miss Joan socked her 10 pound on here. This is a 15.
So that amount of shaking is okay.
Right here. Yeah.
They just gotta know.
Yeah. That's just a light amount of shaking. Can you hear that? He's not like just having a fit. See, a little bit of steam. He's letting out a little bit of steam that's above 10 pounds. Because we told him, hey, your job is to keep us on 10 pounds, so he got to do something with that extra steam. And if I see a whole lot of rocking and a whole lot of steaming, I'll just come over here and go down just a tad with my stove eye temperature. But I don't want this to drop now to no 8 and 5 pounds, see. We want the pressure in this whole pot for my above sea level altitude at 10 pounds, okay? This is over here. I don't have this, but he'll just be barely doing like this, you know, because he's letting out steam that's over 10 pounds. But if he's going to turn the stove light down, that's all he's got to do. Turn it down until he just makes a gentle little racket. But a jiggle, I used to say to other cannon shows I've done, jiggle, 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 jiggle. Well, look at there how nice that's going. See, he's soft, barely going. I'm locked down. Everything's safe on this cannon. You don't see no leaking out nowhere. If you had steam leaking out places and you're supposed to be sealed down, that might be a good sign that your rubber gasket is lived its life, okay? But give it a while, because after it builds up and gets just steam in here and air out, then you're not supposed to be seeing no leak in the water nowhere, okay? Y'all, I wish I could just relay your fears to know just how easy it is. Now I'm going to find me some kind of little 75-minute job around here, piddling and a-doing, and come back when this is done and just cut it off. Here he ain't no trouble. He's nice and soft. Just singing me a sweet little song. Look how fast that's going there. See it? I'm going to turn the eye down. My timer has gone off at 75 minutes for my pints on these beans. So all I got to do now is just reach over here and cut my stove off and just let it come down on its own. This will come down to 0. My little lock button will fall down. Of course, that's going to quit moving. It's finished. So right now, we just got to wait on our canner to cool down. Never, ever come over here and say, whew, I've hit 0. I'm going to open it. We're going to wait. I wait at least an hour, okay, for mine to cool down. See how it's slowing down? This is going to start falling. But we're going to let it sit here and cool on its own. I'm not going to try to move it or anything. I'm just going to wait. I have let it sit here a whole hour. If you'll notice, my little lock button and extra air vent has dropped. This right here is down on 0. I didn't open it up to start with. Now I waited a whole hour, okay? And watch. See, there's no air coming out of this. If I was taking it off too soon, you'd hear a little racket right there. You put it back on real quick, okay? If you do that. All right. So now I'm gonna open it. Okay. See how easy it was? Now I'm gonna open it. See, there's still steam in here, and I'm not saying that it's not hot. Hot in there, but it's not under pressure. All the pressure's gone. Now, I'm going to always open it up away from your face, because you're going to get the hottest sauna bath you ever seen if you open it up towards yourself. Anyway, see, I'm opening it up that way. Okay, I'm going to gonna lay it aside. Look at what we got. I'm gonna reach in here. This is where this little thing comes in handy. The jar grabber. I guess that's what you call it. Lock it around there and bring them out. Now what I do is I let them sit on a towel till they completely cool. See how those beans doubled in size? But I know you're supposed to look up my bean video if you want to know how to do this. Hear that popping sound? That's a sweet sound right there. See, as your food begins to like cool, all the air gone out, the oxygen gone out of the jars and everything, your food starts to contract and it pulls that seal really tight, causing that pinging sound. Okay? That's what you just heard. It's basically the same canning process that we've been going through for whatever you want to pressure can, okay? I'm going to let these cool. I'm going to take you all the way to the end on this video, which means that I'm probably going to let them set overnight till they're completely cool, and tomorrow morning we'll come in here, finish out the training video on how to clean your jars up, take all these rings off, bands, show you how to mark them, how I store them and everything, and then you will have a whole video of just how easy it is to pressure can. I got all that top row out. Now I'm reaching in here. Remember that disc separator? That's just such a rewarding experience to be able to can your own food. You know exactly what's in it. Oop, pop. Hear that popping sound? That's a good sound. Okay, I'm not going to worry about none of them. I'm going to cover them up with this other towel. Whoop, 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 whoop. Pop, pop, pop. Ping, ping, I think is what they call it. All righty. Well, Miss Joan's going to let these set. We keep our house kind of cool, so I'm covering up the top too. It's just a good thing. We don't want them to rush down too fast. So they're going to slowly cool on their own, and I'll get back with you on how we're going to mark them and prepare them. Okay, y'all, it's the next morning. I've let my beans set overnight. Remember, I covered them with a towel when I last saw y'all. Here they are, completely cool. And I was just going to take you all the way to the end of how I process anything that I can. First thing I'm doing is taking all the rings and the bands off, throwing them in the bowl over here. And you think, well, leave them on there, Miss Joan. No, you take them off because you could have a false seal. You could think that these beans are sealed, and really it's the band or the ring that's holding it down tight. So we don't want that. As soon as any of these were to go bad or not sealed, we want to know it, okay? So this is the best way, is to take them off. And remember now, you can wash all these, let them dry them good, and use them over and over. So it's really cost effective once you get all of your supplies together. What I do is I take a wet sponge and I wash all my jars all over. Because these are going to go on my shelf with all my other stuff. That's all I do. I just clean them up really good. Sometimes you'll get a little, I don't know, seepage or whatever. Stickiness, I guess is the word. So I like to just wash the whole jar. Now I have me a dry cloth ready. Let's go ahead and dry it because I want it to dry. Because you see, I'm going to write on these jars the date, so I'll know when I canned it. Now, say that you've washed all of these. You want to check them and see if they're sealed. And what you do is, the ring is gone, the band is gone. Pick it up, pull it here, pull it here. Pull it hard too. Check every one of them. That'll let you know if it's sealed, okay? Now, after that, you're gonna do what you call the finger test. See, here's one of my lids, my seals. I'm gonna pull up close to the camera. Hear that? Popping sound. That's what your jars are like when you first put your product in there before they seal. You don't want to hear that on none of these. That means it didn't seal. See, I'm touching every one of them. None of them are making that popping sound. Okay, so all of these have sealed, and now it's time for me to mark them. I'm left-handed, so I'm going to head all of these, this line here for where you put the date. I'm going to head all of these slanted to a left-handed person. That way when I come down through here marking all of these with the date that I canned them, then I'm not going to have to stop and twist a jar, okay? We can these, I don't go with just the day, but I put March of 24. And I just do that on every, see that one wasn't moved. It makes me just fly through here. Marking I start up here so the ink won't get on me. And I come down. Alright.
How long are these good for?
That's a good question. They're good till the seal breaks. You know, you got a good, tight seal. You'll notice when you start opening these up, you know, I told you to use the round end of the can opener, that you'll hear that suction sound. I go by the fact, as long as the seal's good, none of this in here is turned like a, if something is molding in there, you'll see it, okay? Especially through these glass jars, you'll see it. See how pretty the bean is? Yeah. You can look in your products, whatever you can, and you can tell if mold has started to form on the top. But these is good for a long time, I'll go ahead and tell you. Same way with on your bulk canned pinto beans or any kind. They just have a suggested expiration date, you know? You can tell when you open it up.
How do you suggest storing these?
Okay. Some people don't believe in double stacking them, but I do my pints, okay? It's good, though, to cut you a piece of cardboard or the bottom of those, or those containers that the jars came in. Those are good to keep because they'll hold all 12 of your jars. And I just do them like this. And I don't double stack my quarts because they're heavier, okay? Depends on how much room and space you got where you're storing your cans or not. But oh yeah, and don't put them out in your hot garage. My pantry is inside, so it's the same temperature as the rest of the house, and that's a good place to store your vegetables or whatever you canned is in a, you know, on the inside of the house where the temperature is cooler. Now here's what I quit doing. It's so pretty. You see so many home canned. In fact, I printed me some out on the computer that said, "From the kitchen of Miss Joan," you know, on the date and what it was. And I socked it on the front of these jars. Well, that was so pretty. That first year, if I gave any away, it just made me look so homey, you know. But when I started to use some of my jars the next year, oh, Swanee, we was a scratching and a scrubbing and trying to get all of that glue off from my pretty little label. So I gave that up. I can write pinto beans up here on the top if you're got a whole bunch of different kind of beans, and I do. I can tell the difference when I look at these, if it's a navy bean, a pinto, or a black bean. So I don't write on this. I just put the date on all mine. These right now are clean. They're marked. They've been tested to see if they sealed. I've took the rings off. I'm gonna wash them and get them. So they're ready for me to move to my pantry, to my storage area. And what I'll do is I'll put them in the back of the other pintos that I've got. That way, my oldest ones is on the front. That way I'm continuously rotating my food and I'm eating the oldest first. I really enjoyed bringing y'all this canning video basics. If you will, if you think of a question that, I didn't cover, comment down below. I'll get back to you and with the answer. And I tried to think of everything, but I know I missed out some stuff. I've got a lot of canning videos out there if you want to look any of them up, especially down, you need to look up this canning dry beans. I think on that one I did 4 or 5 kinds that same day because they all do the same way. I've got canning different kinds of beets out there, chicken, beef, how to can frozen vegetables out of your freezer. There's all kind of things that's around home that we're freezing that we can get it out of the freezer, save on the power bill, or if the lights go out and all that, it's on your shelf, see? It don't affect none of that. Now, that's what prodded me to make this how to do basic pressure canning video, because I thought, got more canning videos, and they're on a playlist out there than I realized, and I never have just went over with the new people that are new to canning ever step by step. And that's what this video is all about, and I'm so hoping that it helps you. And like I said, even if you're a seasoned canner and you want to chime in with some things that I left out or some good information to share with our new canners, do that and help me out, because we want to get the word out and the information, the training out to our new canners that they can do this. It's not a booger bear. It's not as scary as it's made out to be. I too was nervous when I started at it years ago, but I love it now. I call this my hobby. I love it. I really do. I enjoy it. I enjoy trying new things, and I hope you will. And you can start out simple. You can can you some water. You can can you just some beans, something easy. Don't be nervous. Step by step, work with your canner, and you can do it. Let me know if you do try some of these tips and you're new. Say, hey, Miss Joan, this helped me. Thank you, because I do want to keep trying to think of things to help our new canners or our new cooks out there. I enjoyed making this right here from At Home with Miss Joan. At home with Miss Joan, would you like? You know, whether you like it or not, okay? At home with Miss Joan, please subscribe. Sure does help this old girl's channel grow. Won't you share with friends and family? You know, like your mom and them, okay? Comment right here and you'll hear back from me. You know, preacher, get back with you, my daughter, me, somebody will, right?